thank you to PulveRedu. Big thank you to whoever's been part of it. And most of all, Jonathan, who's been a big part of it. Lauren, who's definitely been involved in organization, especially the Pulver family, both Lauren and Jeff, but brother and sister, amazing hosts. And it's been such a growth, developmental year and process. The fact I even have such a course and such an opportunity is in their merit. And I really appreciate it with the book as well. It's coming together, hopefully in the new year, for the Jewish New Year, or even the general year 2022, it will be able to get out a formal approach to this whole concept of united souls. Today's focus is a climax point, and the key to remember today is to climax in oneness. And we had a little discussion before that there are some things that go on in life that are the opposite of oneness, seemingly, like when a couple get divorced, or other such things that go on, like a business partnership breakup. These kind of things have come up in the Zula community and our community. We have discussed some of these things. But today we're going to go into first the climax to the oneness, and then how to bring that into our daily life. The key is that everything we've discussed should be practical and rememberable and internalized and real, and should impact our life. My soulmate, my wife, was just saying before, because I'm going through quite a hard time this last few weeks, and I'm going to be traveling, and then it makes a bit more tension when the husband's about to leave, and there's a lot still to do, and etc. It's just a difficult moment. And she was saying, you're not applying anything you're talking about. So I have the honesty and the transparency to share that I do have my weak moments, and that's part of being a human being, that we're allowed to have moments. Thank God I didn't kill anyone, or I see the love there. I didn't God forbid, do anything I hope the word is irreversible, or long-term damage or anything. These are all things that can be fixed through just a polite forgive me, or or rebuilding that person's confidence that I was mean to, or whatever it is. That we have the power to come back to the oneness. That's the idea, that when we're aware, and this is what I've been talking about the last few weeks in my own classes, my weekly classes that I give, in my podcasts and Unity podcast and relationship podcasts, that once you have the awareness, the clarity of thought, and the concepts, and the goals and the mission statement, you have a clear picture, a vision of what you'd like to aim towards, that's constantly aiding you. In some ways, in some days, that you can that goal, that ambition, that drive, and that failure to achieve all those things can actually be very painful, and can actually be used against yourself. So therefore, you need to come back, like Tom Billy always says. He always says wisely, you need to learn how to use whatever you are growing in to be most effective, and to not hinder you in your development. So that's very important to when you're developing yourself as a human being, as a soul, not to get pulled into these games where suddenly because you're having a lower moment, or a harder moment, or a difficult moment, to compound it with, now's the time I'm really meant to be achieving all these goals, and I'm meant to be, whatever. Say someone's like, that famous actor Jim Carrey. I'm meant to have $1 million by this and such an age. So he actually achieved it. But just say you didn't, yeah? Like, I would say personally that if you work out all your cumulative spending, and if you do have property, or if you even just rented, all those experiences in life, they probably do accumulate after a bunch of years to $1 million. That's how much we live, and that's how rich and wealthy we are in a first world country, that we probably after a bunch of years have gone through $1 million. I'd be, I don't know if anyone would say I'm wrong about that, but I think that, I once got a blessing from a righteous man, a very holy man. I've mentioned him a few times here in this course. And he said to me, and the truth was, I didn't say nothing to him. We were praying together, and he read my mind. And I was praying for $1 million. Literally, I was praying for that amount, like Jim Carrey style. I hadn't got like my game plan, how I'm going to get it, but I was just saying to the God, however you call it, the universal force, our creator, our Father, however you connect and describe, you're this huge absolute force. I was beseeching that force and saying, please, I need $1 million somehow. I need to better house my family and la la la. Anyway, I was just thinking about it, and my Rebbe at that time, my teacher, he came up to me after the prayer service and said to me in the car, he said, he gave me a blessing. As I was leaving the car, he said, you're going to have $1 million. Don't worry about it. You're going to get it. And I was like, well, I never said nothing to him. It's as if he was up there seeing what I was praying for. So there are some people around who can do that, who are sensitive in that level. And I've had the merit to be around them. And I've seen those blessings manifest. Because, for example, without being too transparent, but I am living in a house in Yerushalayim. Work that out yourself. Yeah. So, but the point is that these blessings do come true. Yeah. And it's about tuning into that oneness, but sometimes it's actually us asking for it and requesting it. And that's part of the 12 steps. So you have to sometimes open yourself up and be able to just have the humility to say, I need help. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's actually one of the 10 points that we're focusing on. I think we mentioned humility definitely during this course. And, I was just listening. It's right fresh on my mind to, maybe, Jonathan, you can help me with the name. What's his name? The famous soldier, Navy SEALs guy, Jocko Willink. It's a famous.
I don't know the name, but I know you're talking about.
Yeah, Jocko, big guy. Yeah.
I think you're right, actually.
Yeah, Jocko Willink. Yeah, so he's amazing in his content and his teachings. He's even put out a children's book. I'm very impressed with him as a person. And he just had a veteran's wife on his podcast. And it's the latest episode. I don't want to say a name because, even though he said it, but you can go there and see for yourself. But the main point that you just filled with these soldiers after they've gone through what they've gone through is such humility. Even though at one point they were like on top of the game and top of the world, they were the elite of the elite. But through the experiences of going through so much trauma, layer after layer after layer, and the effect it has on their family, on their own mind, on their own heart, on their functionality. And you feel it so deep when you hear this wife talking through the story of her husband who eventually, from what I gather, killed himself, but was basically dying. Yeah. So it's crazy when you see that people who gave up so much of their life for a bigger cause and the damage it brought upon them. Now, this, I'm not in any place to discuss this kind of humility and this kind of lifestyle because I never did it. But what I can say is that when you hear the kind of things that people are going through, it should just bring you to some level of humility that it's okay that you're struggling and you're still working yourself out. And even if you've got a lot of awareness, a lot of ideas that I do believe impact you positively and do improve your game a little bit more, and you do get to apply all the previous 9 points that we brought out, a little bit more of a positive effect on your, as we'll say, we'll go through them quickly, being more proactive, so you're more kind, you're less affected by life in a negative way, you don't react to things, you're proactive. And then the idea of mission statement we spoke about, the idea of really having goals and dreams, that's the second one. And then the third one, to be able to be focused on family first and what's priority. I mean, I say family first because for me that's a priority. And the first things first, to know your true priorities in this world and your time management and how to not let life move you around, but rather you have a strategy and a clear approach to how you're going to manage your day. Obviously, you're flexible. We spoke about that as well. And then the fourth concept of win-win, of really being able to develop and build other people around you. And the fifth concept of listening to really understand before being understood. So learning to get out of your own mindset and be able to really listen to a person in front of you, so you're not stuck in putting your agendas on others, but you're able to really internalize what you've learned in that conversation and really experience the other person fully. That's the hardest one for me personally. And then the sixth, the idea of synergize, bringing everything together and really connecting this all, thanks to Stephen Covey. But we brought it into a little bit of a spiritual level all these 6 points. And that was why when we went to the seventh one the last few weeks, and we talked about internalization and reviewing, that I also came to a realization the last few weeks that these 7 points, the sharpening the saw and bringing it all together, they really fit the 7 Noahide laws, which is very interesting because there's a concept from, I am a Jew, and, and the Noahide laws are not specifically for the Jews, they're actually for the nations of the world, but they've seemed to be very forgotten about and sidelined. And someone recently who introduced me originally to Stephen Covey, he said he's now going through the Noahide laws, if you know what they are, the 7 commandments for the B'nai Noah, which is for the general world, not just for the Jewish people. And those commandments actually fit perfectly Stephen Covey's 7 habits. So the idea is, what I understood from Stephen Covey is that he brought down 7 principles, and that's why we're giving him credit at this final Climax class, that are so cleverly universal that if you go into any mysticism, I would believe those principles will fit. They'll fit the pattern, the process of being proactive all the way till review and internalization. That process will be in every mystical system of 7. And one of the reasons I know it's true, because one, I've gone through also the spiritual mystical texts in the Jewish world, and I've gone through a lot of other religions before I became more involved with Judaism. I was in university and I studied Buddhism and Hinduism a little bit, not as much Islamic texts, and also Christian texts. I grew up in a school where I was taken to church every year, and I had a pastor who used to give Bible classes, and I did religious studies. I had a lot of religious experiences growing up, even though I was irreligious. But for some reason, I was blessed to have a very wide range upbringing, and I was surrounded by every kind of religion growing up at the schools I went to. So that was very encouraging for me when I came across 7 principles that fit all those religions and certain level, the mystical texts as well, other mysticisms that exist as well, because there are a lot. There's also there's a bunch of South American mystical texts as well, which the Celestine Prophecy was one of them that inspired me very much. Just to give some sources that they're out there, there are a flow of mystical writings that fit everything we've said, and it should make sense that it should be that way, because if we're talking about the language of the soul and we're trying to bring oneness into everything, so we have to understand it is a universal bridge between all the different spiritualities and all the different. I prefer not to use religion so much, because religion gets caught up with, once again, a lot of the differences, and there's a lot of culture there and a lot of communal rules that have been developed. But if we have the bottom line 7 principles that Stephen Covey brought out in a practical way for everyday life, and I do believe he was a religious man himself also, so there's a lot we can learn, and we can bring it to something like the 12 steps, which, even though it was started by religious people, but it still has foundational principles that connect into very much many things we've talked about here as well, and they're helping people get out of their addictions. That's why personally I then took it on to the next 3 levels of 8, 9, 10. I added 3 more levels, and we spoke the last 2 sessions about the 8th one and the 9th one, of really knowing your voice, understanding, and then knowledge, to really know yourself and to remove all those distractions. And that's when we can get ready for this 10th concept, which is where we're at now, which is the oneness, just bringing it all together. And I'm going to read out what my wife helped me with in her course that we did together, to inspire ourselves with a life more belief, unity, and joy. Now, belief doesn't have to just be belief in God. Also, really importantly, it means belief in yourself. Believe that you have a soul. To build that in yourself will give you ability then to believe, and this is something which I've definitely been lacking at this last few weeks, and I'm really going to have to work on it the next few weeks, because there's, for many reasons, I need it more than ever. But to believe, once you believe in yourself, then you can really believe in other people and build their self-belief, self-esteem. And that's why it's so important that if you believe that everything happens to you in life is meant to be, like you accept, you have that acceptance, which is a huge step forward in life. You accept what you're going through is what you're supposed to be going through. There is some level of mourning or or like we said about divorce or losing a business opportunity, there is some level of letting go, and that can be emotionally difficult. But once you get to that level of acceptance, then you're in a place where you can now really go forward in emanating a lot of belief in the people around you who are also affected by whatever it is. Because usually a divorce affects the whole family. Even if it's a child going through divorce, it still affects the whole family. Whenever the part of the family is going through divorce, it affects everyone around. Yeah, we agree on that. Yeah, so everyone gets affected. Or if a father or a mother who's an important breadwinner in the family goes through a broken partnership in business, or something goes on that's difficult, where the change of income, and a lot of people have gone through this during this Corona challenge, yeah, where they were getting a certain amount of income and now they're getting less, or it's becoming in different ways and they have to shift it to online. It's a lot of transitions and struggles. Everyone keeps using this word pivot to the point it gets annoying. Yeah, personally, I don't know if you've heard all these people pivoting. It makes me think of a ballet dancer, but the point is that that's the way my mind works. But it gets a bit annoying. I mean, I like ballet, but I don't like, the word being used. Like, you get these words they use again and again and again. And it's like to the point where it's like, all right, enough already. Like, just communicate a little bit more unique. Like, have your own forms of expression. Don't just always use everyone's lingo that's become popularized online. Like, use your own words. Learn your language. Believe in yourself. That's another important thing we talked about. There's the language of the soul. You have to learn to believe in yourself enough that you communicate from you, and not because you've heard some bigger person supposedly say something, so you now only quote it according to them. Why? If you've got some insight that they don't have, and you've got some unique form of expression they don't have, that's your gift, that's your blessing, and use that. So communication is also really important in the schemes of oneness. People think, we've spoken and mentioned this before, but people think, and I don't want to be political, but people think that oneness means equity, which it does not. It's the opposite. Yeah, people think that oneness means unity, means everyone voting for the same person, or not. That could be totalitarianism, that could be communism, or all these other isms. To really have oneness, it means unity and diversity, that everyone is unique and they're able to respect, as we had all the principles before. It doesn't mean they just become one to everyone else. That's not true. There's a human universal truth that we've mentioned before that we can all gain from, but it's still going to come out on each person according to their individual situation. Just like we said, we mentioned before with divorce, there's a great quote from Jonathan that every single person divorce is unique. And I would say that in almost every important, life experience, there's a unique way that a human being is going to go through that nobody else has. And that if a person would value that uniqueness, then they have such an amazing brand, because now they're their own brand that no one else is. And think about that. That's the beauty. People always say, well, how am I going to brand myself? But just be totally you. Don't be anyone else. Don't think you need to look a certain way or act a certain way. Just be totally true to yourself and believe in yourself and have that trust in yourself as much as you're able to. And also, as we said, you do need to speak to people outside of yourself. Like I said, we've talked about before, my soulmate or a guide, or people who are wiser than you or more experienced than you and have an insight to help guide you. But once again, it doesn't take away if they're really good guides. We're not talking about gurus who suddenly own you. We're talking about people that the furthest thing they want to do is own you or control you. They want you to become the best you. They're the kind of guides you want to be connected with. You don't want to be connected to people that want you to become them. That's where religion's lost the plot. Yeah, when they're trying to control people, or governments, or political organizations, or social media influencers. They want to get everyone to be a certain. It's not going to work. The true leader causes the other person to become a leader. That's what one of the most famous rabbis of history. He was praised for this. His name's the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Chabad Rebbe. What he built was a movement of leaders. And when people tried, and I myself at one point considered, joining their group officially and having the official, emblem of Chabad. That's the name of the group, and like joining the whole thing with all the customs and the beautiful thing is that he didn't always say to every single person that turned up to him, yeah, you need to join my organization. He was happy to help them be empowered through his organization, but the key was to build leaders, no matter what, who they were, and if they were in his organization or outside his organization, what difference it got to do? You just got to build everyone who comes to him. It was about empowerment and building them up to become the best person, godly person they can be. And that he was an example of United Souls, because he did that in a way that's impacted the world globally. And I do think that they've reached a point, even in this generation, where they've generally, I mean, not everyone's perfect there, but they've generally got a good name in the world. And they've been seen as an organization that is filled with leaders, but even people who aren't part of the organization feel a kinship, like a connection. So it's just the reason I'm bringing this is just an example how there are people who are bringing oneness into the world through building up other people around them. But remember, it all goes back, like everything we've said, back to yourself. It goes back to you. And that's why I'm going to carry on reading. Everyone should take one self-care mentioned to start. As we've already talked about at the beginning, you have to take care of yourself. For example, for one person, it could be having coffee early in the morning before everyone gets up, or a 10 minutes walk, nap, or read, or something you enjoy. So here you go. This is my wife, yeah, like beautifully coming in. I'm like holding about these big famous leaders and this whole powerful vision of how we're going to save the world. And she's telling me, no, you need to get up in the morning, make sure you have a coffee before you start talking to anyone, or go for a walk, or, that you have to be real, that before you can go save the world, that you're a person. As they say in the Yiddish language, you're a mensch. You're a person first before you can go out and do anything else for anybody else. And that's the beauty of waking up and having that individual, unique moment with yourself and your day that's about to begin. That's a crucial time to really gather yourself and remember what life's about, what your goals are. So in our religion, I mean, I hate using the word religion, but spiritually, what we say in the morning is we give thanks just for the fact that we woke up. That's actually a law that we're just to say. And you say Tony Robbins has this hour of gratitude, or power hour of gratitude, or all these big speakers now. This has been going on in our tradition ever since the laws are written down and given. That it's all of the generations in our people has been taught to say the first thing when you wake up in the morning is the attitude of gratitude. So I thank you. The words are, I thank you for returning my soul and having a tremendous belief in me. Beautiful words. Someone sent me the other day the prayer of Serenity, which in the addiction world and recovery world, let's rather call it recovery world, is a very profound prayer also of letting go and believing in a higher force that's going to help me overcome my desires. These kind of simple prayers or mantras, or however you want to call it, can bring, as you start the day. So my wife went to the next level after that to just have a coffee or have 10 minutes walk, a general human principle that we all can connect with. Have a little nap, doze for another 5 minutes, nothing more pleasurable than that, or read something you enjoy. The point is we have accomplished something together that is very healthy and special. That's the concept that generally everything we've discussed in this course, that we've accomplished something healthy and special. We've dedicated an hour once every 2 weeks, and we had a little break here and there, but we've dedicated time in our life with all the busyness and all the pressures and all the struggles, and we've dedicated just for self-development, just to become more soulful and more aware of who we truly are and ability to inspire that in others. We've dedicated an hour of that time, and that's very precious and powerful, and it's a very healthy and special thing to do. If you ever listen to Oprah in her Super Soul Sunday thing, podcast or whatever, she always says about how time is so important, that you give yourself time to become more soulful. And if she can say that on her level of busyness and with all her, she could be doing other things and empowering people on this kind of mindset but she's obviously learned through all her years of success that the soul level is really important. I mean, she's a proof to my course on a global level that there is such a mindset, or the idea of Eckhart Tolle, who she's very into, becoming such a name nowadays, because the importance of soul subjects is universally needed. That people need to feel that there's some sort of unifying force in the science world. There's this universal principle that binds everything together. The exact name of it, the universal theory of oneness, or whatever the exact way of phrasing it is in science language. But the point is, there's a oneness that they're searching for in science as well, and I don't think they've given up that search. I do think it's continuing from what I remember last time I looked into it. But then let's read a bit more of my wife's wise words. This will add to our daily life an element of belief, unity, and joy. And obviously the concept is you need to be able to follow up more. But it's not enough just to say, okay, we did the course and, see you later, mate. No, the hope is that we're going to have another series. And the hope is that we're going to use that 1 hour once every 2 weeks just to think about these concepts together. And I want it to be interactive, like I've said so many times. I don't want to just sit here and go on. And I have done a bit of a long one now. It's already almost half an hour. So I want to hear from Jonathan, and how can we think about the oneness and bring it more into our unique, special life. That it shouldn't be something which is removed. That, for example, we wake up in the morning, we're connecting into that every day, whatever prayer or mantra or saying or way of meditating that you have, your ritual, healthy ritual that you have. If it's a coffee, if it's a walk in the park, or whatever it is. But it should be a moment of just clarity that I'm a soul and I'm here in this world to experience the goodness and the positivity, and I'm appreciative. I have an attitude of gratitude. I'm thankful that I have this opportunity of another day of life in this world. Like, how can Jonathan bring that alive in his life? So then all the other things we've discussed, there's a space made available, because that's the idea. That once you remove the ego and you remove all these negative distractions and things we've discussed before, then there's space in you for all this other positive soul talk. And there's space within you not blocking your soul from emanating. That's one of the beautiful ideas that I'd like to discuss more in the second part of today's episode. And it's very connected to something which I'm working on in a deep way. And it's coming up in my personal calendar development. But the idea is you have a soul within. And the concept is how do you bring out the soul into your life? So I'm going to give you a little insight how spiritually there is a tool how to do that, but it's still a new concept which I'm just working on. And if anyone has any feedback about it, it will be amazing, because it's a new concept. But before we go there, I just want to ask Jonathan, what would you say up until this point of everything we've had in this course, and specifically today, this idea of bringing it into a moment at the beginning of the day just to internalize this oneness, but also this uniqueness. Because remember, our prayer that I said is that he believes in you in a tremendous way. And that's the point, that the higher force believes in you. That's why it's giving you another day of life. There's a force that believes in you, that you need to be here, that you're needed in this world. And you're not just an accident, and you're not just a bunch of, atoms bumping together. You're needed in this world. Your unique purpose and message and way of communicating, everything about you, your children, your life, it's needed.
I thank you, because I'm going to add that into what I do in the morning. So my morning ritual, right when I wake up, I go through this prayer of gratitude, but it's more 5 senses related. So being able to breathe and see and smell and hear and feel the beauties of God, of the higher power, however you connect. But that sense of worthiness, and that, you matter, like you're here for a reason. And to acknowledge that, I think, is huge. And I haven't done that. So I love that. And when I started doing that, when I started having just the smallest morning routine, I guess you could say, it really changed a lot. It really changed a lot. It set the tone for the day for me. And we actually teach this to a lot of the men that we work with within the military and PTSD, anxiety, depression. So, and we've seen a big change with that too. So thank you for that. And I've gone through a lot of morning routines and what works, what doesn't work, and you have to find out what works for you and in the season that you're in, right? There's been times where I've gotten up and read my Bible, and that was just what I needed. There were times when I had to go for a walk. There were times when I had to meditate, right? And so what I see within the morning routine is it doesn't have to be rigid. Be aware of yourself and what you're experiencing, and have as many tools at your exposure to know what you need, right? If you need a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, that's perfectly fine.
The tea was an English reference there, but yeah, even the English nowadays, I think they prefer coffee, from what I see.
I'm actually drinking tea.
Wow.
But if you miss a day too, like, it's okay. We've all had those days where we've slept in, or the kids get up early and you have to, they're not feeling well or something. Like, if you miss a day, it's not the end of the world. So I loved what you said. Believe in yourself so you can believe in others. And I tell my kids that you have to become your own best friend. Once you can become your own best friend, then you are ready to share life in a deeper way with other people. And if you can't trust in yourself, you can't rely on the world to do it for you, which is clear and obvious right now. And that goes back to what you said, like, there's no one thing is alike, right? No one divorce is exactly alike. In law enforcement, which is a background of mine, they say there's no such thing as a routine traffic stop. Well, basically that just means that, like, each moment in its presence is unique, and you have to stay connected to what you're doing. You can't lose focus. And I think there's a spiritual focus and a human element focus. And how do you blend those two together in your everyday journey? And that's really where I'm at, right? That's really where I'm at right now, is what cycles have I created that no longer serve me? And how do I heal them so I can blend this, spiritual journey along with this earthly responsibility of business and raising kids and, not allowing the outside world to affect us, like you said earlier with, the divorce, right? Like, and you're not perfect. So, I appreciate your vulnerability with that, but you are willing to acknowledge it and share it. And that's what healing, growth, recovery is. And that's actually, for me, when I get around people that are like that, it's like, it's so empowering. It's so motivating. When I get around a group of guys that understand their emotions and are willing to talk about it, to me, that's the most masculine thing you can do.
Yeah, that's why I brought up Jocko, because hearing such a huge man, like so male, and like, I don't know, there's alpha male, there's some sort of name for it nowadays that people use a lot.
Yeah.
This huge, like, giant Navy SEAL, accomplished person being so emotional and vulnerable and talking about trauma in the most intense way. It's very profound to watch it. And especially with the current news cycle going on, the lack of, like, sensitivity to that's been going on publicly through our leaders and stuff like that, crazy things that they've been involved with, even if they know how to say it, but you don't feel it. Like, when you have one of these real male people that have been there in the like the ultimate level, the ultimate level of maleness, of war, and they're able to be so the other way, like completely real and emotional, authentic. It's amazing.
Yeah, I this past week I work with veterans, and I was able to interact with quite a few Marines, with everything that's going on, and you know I'm angry about what's going on. They're on a different level, right? I don't know if you want to call it rage or just I don't know, but we got together and we talked about it. I never served in our military, and we acknowledged that it's okay to be angry at this situation. It's okay for you to be enraged. What's not okay is for you to go out and act out something like you said earlier has long-term, detrimental effects not only to you but to, your family and other people. And by sitting around and talking about it, it really, really helped everybody. But there's different levels, right? Their experience is totally different than my experience. So how can you downplay either of them? You can't. You can't. And anybody that tries to, quite honestly, right? Like, I feel bad for those people.
So
Because,
what you're doing on with these people, the veterans, and especially right now with everything, I mean, they've been let down by the people they gave their life up for, and there's so many ways to understand it and explain it without even being political, just to be human. Yeah, I'm sure there's some other way that people
yeah,
explain it, but I do have to say, I don't ever like saying this, but this is one of the points we wanted to discuss, and we'll get into it very lightly. Maybe the next series we'll talk about it more because it does need to be discussed. But there is a concept of evil, or the opposite of unity, that doesn't want people to join together, and they themselves expose themselves. That's the key.
yeah,
I don't need to go look for them. I'm not cancel culture. The opposite. There probably are the people in cancel culture, but the point is that I'm not there to go and expose them. I don't need to do that. They expose
right.
themselves. Their lack of compassion, a lack of empathy, a true empathy, not this pretend, just political jargon. We're talking about where you can sense that they've got evil agendas, and they're actually
Yeah,
acting on it for the sake of power, control, desires, or even delusion, whatever it is. And we have to be aware that there is that force in the world, at least on some level, and it has influenced us all on some level because of some of the terrible tragedies that have taken place. But the comfort is, I was listening to class today, is it gives us free will. It gives us something which is most precious to us, because that existence of that evil and that lack of unity and that lack of what all the things we've discussed so far. Imagine it would take all my points before and go the negative direction. Yeah. And their goal
yeah,
is not to have oneness, but to have disparate non-unity. They want power. They want to be. It's all pure ego. So that place of pure ego that wants to undo everything I've talked about, it exists. It's a force. It can sometimes manifest in people, which is a very scary thing, but it also manifests in society. It manifests in decisions and policies and all kinds of things that we have a natural feeling of justice and a natural feeling of wanting to rage against that. Now, what you've done,
and
you
and
yeah,
well, to add to that is the opposite, and that's exactly where the vets were at, right? They had this internal turmoil of good versus evil, and it was like, okay, how do I not act out on that, because it stirred up, because we all have an ego, that side of our vets. And what we had to do is we had to sit there and be present with them and walk them through step by step to show them, or to bring awareness to what they did was so important, and what they went over for, they did fulfill that purpose, and that was centered and grounded in love and all of it. And so bringing them through and helping them see that what they did was exactly what they signed up to do, and they accomplished that. And
Amazing.
they you know, and yeah. So it
Because
was
that really is the
you could
victory.
see that
But that's the victory.
teeter, yeah.
That's the successful result, that they never lost themselves. That's that they're able to have the format that you've created, which is really my whole course. The point is, it's not meant to be done by itself. I'm not meant to sit here and just talk to myself. I've done that before. I've taught many classes where I sit in a room and there's a video camera and a bunch of machines and I just talk. And back in the day, before all this technology, I thank God I had class interaction and I had, 10 or 20 people around me, or group sessions. That would be the ideal. And really, for these special souls like veterans or people of recovery, or really anybody nowadays who's interested in growing in a growth mindset, they're going to have some community. Come unity. It's the same word. Come unity. Community.
Yeah.
The idea they have to join together with other people, and we mentioned this before, that you need other people to really complete yourself. You're not going to come to completion by yourself. That also is a very important clarification, that you can't do what you set out to accomplish as an individual. You have to become the best individual you can be, but you need 100%. Those people around. You need that ability to talk and work it out. And if I try and do stuff by myself, only, and be self-reliant, I'm not going to get where I need to get. And so too, the other way around, if I become too dependent on the community, that I don't do my own self-development, then I'm not going to be very useful for the community. And they're going to lose out on my abilities and my true blessing that I exist. So what you've done by creating that group situation, that is the most important tool at diffusing all this rage, that it should go only in self-development. Like, there is a concept, you're allowed to rage within. That's a healthy rage. Raging within your own negative forces, as we've mentioned before, that you have a right eye to see the good of people around you, but the left eye to rage at their negativity. And it might have come from outside influences, but you still have to rage against it within, so that you're not at one with the negativity. You are purified from it through the raging or through the working it through. And that's something which I know myself, like I've had to do a lot. And I've been inspired by those who've done it on a high level. And what you're doing for the veterans is exactly that. That is like, you're creating that in a group aspect. And that's really what I'd want my course to be. Because by myself, I'm only going to get that far. Because I don't have all the tools. I don't have all the ideas. And that's why I want to go on to this next point. And this is a deep idea. Now, I'm going to need a lot of help on this one from the higher powers themselves, from the higher force, from God. But it's a deep concept. The idea basically is that when you wake up in the morning, we said, you say, thank you for returning the soul to me. So where did this soul come from? How did it get into this human form? Yeah. So one of the beautiful truths is that every day, the soul, a new portion of soul comes into you when you wake up. And when you go to bed, you return a portion of that soul back to the higher worlds. It's a deep concept, mystical concept, but it's important to know that it's an actual true concept. And it's something which, once again, you go into all the different mystical texts, I think generally it's a universal accepting idea. That you have a soul and you have a day of a unique portion of your soul, however you explain that, and you have an opportunity to develop that unique portion of the soul and fulfill that purpose of that soul for that day, and it goes back to its climax point. But the next point, this is deep, that you've now got that soul inside you, but it's very good. It's inside, it's planted inside you. But if you wake up and you're just thinking about paying bills and your ambitions and your ego and other things that come up straight away, usually the tendency is, if you're a normal human being, that you get hit by a whole barrage of negativity also when you wake up. Yeah, that's a normal, healthy human being to wake up with that kind. I mean, there are some people who are very disciplined how they go to sleep, so then they're very careful in the environment. I know, listen to Tim Ferriss and all these people, they have all these like mattress that heats them and warms them and this and that, a million different effective tools to manifest the best sleep possible and the best mindset possible so you can wake up at peace with yourself. All right, I'm sure there are people that are able to do that. Or you can be like Joe Rogan and go to a sauna or something and sit there for an hour, yeah? But most people don't have those tools, like all the physical tools, to generate that peace of mind or that. So you're going to have to sometimes work it out from within. Now, this is the point. You have a soul that's put inside you, and you have this force that's trying to distract you. How do you get that soul to now be at peace with the human existence of physical needs, of needing to go to the bathroom and dealing with your human physical aspects? And this, how do you get the soul to slowly come out and manifest into your life so that this seemingly contradiction of soul and body doesn't make a war within that's actually maddening or negative or draining or distracting from your overall purpose, or even worse, which is the general reality of most humanity, unfortunately, that you don't even register the soul. You completely just discount it. It doesn't exist. I wake up in the morning, I'm not a soul. I don't know what you're talking about. It's, Ellie, get out of here. I'm a human who needs to now make money. Like, if the 21 Pilots sings in their song, get out of bed and, I've got to go and make money. That's the first thing comes into your head. Parents, make money. Government, pay bills. These voices, these strong voices that come into us and like get us into robot gear that we got to now go into the rat race and do what we have to do. But the point is, before we go, like we said, that's why this 10 minutes or whatever time amount you give. Personally, I have a prayer service every morning. That time amount gives you that hour of gratitude or whatever it is, however you ritualize it. The point is that your soul should be given tools to slowly manifest. That you should balance out the reality of being human, that you're not just all body and you're not all just about the rat race, and you have to be responsible, like you said, but you have to also be responsible to your soul. Like, think about it. You feed your body and you spend all day, you're having a coffee. Yeah, you feed your body, you bathe your body, you rest your body, you clothe your body, you house your body. Think of all the things you do for your body. How much investment does a person put into their soul? And if I was to tell you that the key to all the energy and all the inspiration and all the clarity and all the happiness comes from the soul level, then wouldn't it make sense at least a little bit to get a bit of investment? Like, think about it with your family. If they all have souls, how much do you invest in your family's soul level? How much time do you invest in the community soul level? Or even if you're at a bigger level, like we mentioned a few people before, that you're able to influence the whole world. How much investment do you put in influencing the world to become more soulful, more aware of that part of themselves that's eternal and has universal principles? It has its own language, that it can communicate to your body and guide it, that it's not irrelevant. In fact, it will guide your body much better than your body would, because your body only has drives and needs, but it doesn't understand these soulful tendencies that we all have and we take for granted, but they have a source. They're compassion and all these godly traits and being kind and giving and selfless. Like we talked about the veterans, how selfless are these people, or with the drive to save another person's life. Where does this come from? We don't see it from generally these godly tendencies. We don't see from animals this selflessness and this godliness to develop things, to comfort other people and care for other people. So then we start to understand if the language of the soul is these higher human qualities, then we need to invest more in these higher human levels that we have. And that we just say, I don't know, they come from a need, from a selfish need to get back, because I give, I get back, or it always comes back to the self, no, doesn't it? So you have to say to yourself, no, there is actual true altruism, there is true giving, where you actually truly pleasure another person, and you get the ultimate pleasure by doing that. That's like an example in intimacy with a husband and wife, two souls. The true understanding would that be is the husband's truly in an altruistic form, and that would be the healthy kind of relationship. That's the ideal relationship, and the woman is receiving that altruistic giving, and then that creates a unification between the two, and then they both experience that unit. They become one entity, and that is incredibly pleasurable and empowering. That's the kind of like goal and image of what humanity can become when they're truly unified in the intimate sense on a physical level, because that's happening physically, and that's where the souls cause the physical element to unite. But it can also happen on an emotional level, because in order to get there, you're going to have to do all the emotional work. And it can also happen on a practical level, because now if you understand that this is a deep concept, but the idea is you have this soul inside you. How do I bring it out into my human life, into this being sitting here, into the world outside? So I'll just tell you spiritually, and I end off with this. This is today's climax point. The key is to understand that this gift is given to you every day, and it's blowing into you like the original human being that was created. This is a biblical idea, but there's truth to it, and I don't know how anyone can deny it, other than say, well, I never saw it. But if you have enough insight into human understanding that you have a godly spirit inside you, at this wondrous force, it was blowing into you, and the way it manifests most is through your speech and how you think and how you act. These are clothings of the soul, and it's taking the body into a different place. You're taking this physical mass and you're using it as a tool to communicate, to think great things, and to act in a great way. And this is the idea that it slowly starts to impact the soul level. Once you're aware of it, you start to realize how you can even measure how you act as a soul being, how you speak as a soul being, how you think as a soul being. You can start understanding how it's affecting that, and you start to break it down. That takes time to learn the language of the soul. And that's why this is the first course, is really just an intro. This first whole 10 points was just an intro to this soul language that we're going to go into in the next series. Now, what's going to happen if new people join in and weren't there in the previous one, the intro? Okay, so one of the things we've discussed is review and internalization. So we're going to, again and again anyway, as you mentioned as well, having the right cycles, we're going to have to go back into the basics again of the intro again and again, because we never got it down the first time anyway. Yeah, that would be dishonest if we said, yeah, I mastered all those 10. I'm proactive every day. I never react. Yeah, I'm always win-win. Yeah, I'm listening in the most ultimate level. Yeah, okay, so I've got all those points down. So now let's just go and fly off into the soul language. No, that would be us jumping steps. So we really got to go again through the 10 points again, but take each one a little bit deeper and understand how there's much more tools on each level that the soul can start to impact. We start to get the strategy for each one. And I'll just end off with the first one, being proactive, since that's the one we're going to start with. And that is the one. I want to thank you for joining me. And that's my deep gratitude. Not only that I have been given a soul, but I have other souls in my life who are interested to share that experience with me. And I deeply, deeply appreciate it, because what it does is it gives validation that I'm not in some mental asylum, and I'm not some cuckoo, guru, and I'm not even trying to make some money out of it. I'm not like the next, online guru. I don't want to do, like Tony Robbins said himself, I am not your guru. Good for him. You're not your guru. It's all about each individual. And I just really want to thank you all and realize that being proactive and kind is what this whole foundation of this course is built on. And the kindness of sharing time together and doing this. And I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. That was fantastic.
Yeah,
but it was awesome.
It was just a touch on it, because it's I could tell you so many things on each of those points, that where it fits into in the system of human reality, but we'll have to save that for next time.
Recording stopped.
Wow, that was awesome. That was fire. That was a good class.
You got it going.
Oof, that was deep.